This is an impulse buy I made on eBay this week, and I knew what I was getting, but I wasn't quite sure on the condition. It's a 125mm 5-inch chuck. It's a Pratt Burnerd, and it's a Griptru. So you adjust it with the screws at the side. It's exactly the same arrangement as I've got in the bison chucks that I've got. So I looked at it on eBay and thought, well, it looks in reasonable condition, but do I really want another chuck? And then I thought, well, I can't resist it if it's the price anywhere near the price that it was to be sold at. Now, the first thing, when I got it, it was nicely oiled up, so somebody had dunked this in oil and cleaned it up. It must have been fairly heavily rusted before, but that didn't worry me too much. The jaws don't seem to have had a lot of action, so I looked at this chuck and I thought, well, there's something a bit weird about it. It hasn't got any adjustment screws at the back to loosen off the adjustment plate. So the screws must be inside here. So it's never been used as a Griptru chuck since it was made. And I looked up the figures on here, and it says BP 78 14679. Now I presume that is it's made in 1978. I think that's right. The chuck number, or the type, is 1250 01305, I think. Anyway, it came with just a set of inside jaws, no outside jaws, and a key that didn't really fit it properly, so buy a new key. That's not a problem, doesn't cost very much. And you can actually still get outside jaws from Rotor Grip, so I may well get some, because this is actually not a bad chuck at all. So if I just take this to pieces and just show you, it is just so weird that nobody had got this set up properly. This is to go on my boxer, and the attraction for me was that it's got a Boxford tapped backplate on it, so I could screw it straight on. I did put it on the lathe, and it was out, as you'd expect, about 0.05 of a millimetre. I just have to get something to ease that off with. Just tap that slightly. So that's a normal cast iron backplate. I've got a number of those for various lathes. I've got various chucks I've got, and this is the inside of the chuck, and those are the screws that I was looking for, and clearly those need to be either at the front, or if they're going to be at the back, to go through the backplate. So what I shall have to do is to drill the position of these holes through there, and that will then enable me to tighten up after having adjusted at the back. So I'll take this all off, and we'll have a all these screws aren't burred as I expected they might be after having been a bit rusty. I rather feared that I'd struggle to get all the screws out, but actually, as it turned out, no trouble at all. Now, to undo the screws. I keep forgetting that on the side here. Those I have to take out. There we go. So as you can see, a very substantial cast iron section. I have marked the edge of these, by the way, so that I can put them back in the same relationship. So it turns out all to be quite good. There was almost no swarf inside here. I haven't cleaned this out since, and you can see it's pretty clean inside. So what I will do is I will clean it out. Now there's one spot on here where there's a little bit of rust, and these screws that hold the little bevel gears in, they're all free. They come out nice and easily, all nicely oiled. And then these pop out, no trouble. As I say, that is nice and free, no problem with that at all. I don't think this chuck's being used very much. The jaws don't seem to have any wear worth worrying about, so it might be rather a useful purchase. So what I need to do is to line these two together. I can find my marks. Okay, I've just spot drilled through from here those three holes. I haven't increased the size of them. I've just done them the same size, 6.5mm for a 6mm bolt to give it a bit of play. And that just goes over the top of here. So I'll reassemble this now and pop it in the lathe and just see or confirm how accurate it is. Wipe the top of that in case there's I'll clean it out later. I just want to pop this in just to see, out of curiosity, how accurate it is. That's my mark on there. 3 dots, 3 dots, plays 3 dots. There we go. I happen to have some M6 bolts which should be the right size. I'll put these screws in first. That would help, wouldn't it? That way around. Right, that's all back together. Let's check that these adjusters move in and out. Yep. All I've done is I've just taken those and swapped them out for longer M6 balls. So I've made no other change. So I put that on the lathe and just check its concentricity. I'm over on the lathe. I've mounted the chuck, and I've put a piece of ground 10mm bar in there, and with that on 0 we can just see where I've managed to reach now. It's less than 0.01 with only a very little effort. I could probably do better than that. The jaws are very slightly bell-mouthed, but I could use it as it is, but I think I'll regrind the inside. I've got the means to do that. So I'll end up with a very functional and accurate chuck for £74. What a bargain. One of my rare good purchases of the second-hand goods. I've now cleaned up the chuck. I've cleaned it out inside, and I've tidied up the outside as best I can. It's still a little pitted from the rust, but it's really very good for the price I paid. I've got a chuck key which I've made a bit smaller. The standard chuck key that comes with my Bison is this size, with an adjustment for getting up the screws at the side here, and I've bought one that was quite a bit larger, so I've taken the ends down, made it the same size, roughly the same length, and I put in a hex to enable me to get at the screws here. So that part of it is now done. I'll just show you, literally just a few moments ago, adjusted this. Let's get that back to 0, and you can see how much that wobbles about. Only about less than 0.01 of a millimetre. So it's good enough for an oldish chuck. I bored out the centre jaws because they were a little bit bell-mouthed, so I've dealt with them. The internal surface didn't look as if it had been reground ever, so that's something I've just done. And the other thing is I've made up 2 keys to be able to get to the nuts at the back, and they needed to be just a little bit shorter than normal to get the key into the hex sockets, so that's the way they can be accessed. And I checked through my old chucks, and rather to my pleasure I've managed to get hold of a set. I've got a spare set of outside jaws from a Pratt Burnerd chuck, which are these ones, and they are exactly the same size and they fit the chuck. So I've now got a set of outside jaws, a set of inside jaws, and neither sets of jaws have got much wear on them, which is good. I've got a new chuck key. I've got hex keys to adjust the back. So that is now one complete working Griptru chuck, which is accurate to within 0.01 of a millimetre, and needs nothing more doing to it now, and it was just the cost of £74.